Okay, hey there. Come on. Hey, Teresa, how are you? Come on in, everyone. I'd love to see your faces. It's a beautiful Thursday. Hey, Mike. Hey, Carly. How are you guys? Sheila says hi in the chat. Sorry about this tech difficulty. Um, we just needed someone from the Market Center to sign in and get us all in. All right, as people join in, it looks like we've got a good group here. Curious, let's just get started with like, how was the first month of using this spreadsheet? It was the first month for me as well. I usually use QuickBooks, and so now I'm doing this so I can be a part of this group here. Um, how'd it go? Let's just start with thoughts, challenges, like just throw it on the table. Well, let's start here instead. Well, Carly, go ahead. I think you're about to speak.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say I'm still filling it out. I'm a little behind with getting everything in. I think that's something that I just need to make sure I'm prioritizing to check that and fill it out. So still going through it, but so far I don't have any questions. Just really need to do what I'm supposed to do.
Okay. All right, so still filling it out. That's great. I mean, we're just in with January's numbers, so this is the time to kind of go through and learn versus waiting till June and then you've got so many more. So that's great. I heard you say kind of the magic words, right? Just need to find the time to prioritize. So what do you think would change differently to like once you're done with January, like in March, when you then add February numbers, what would you do differently about prioritization?
I'm gonna just put it on my calendar as a time block time. It honestly kind of slipped my mind a little bit. I was out of town at for last month's meeting, so I also missed this last month, so it just was not top of mind. I didn't have it on my calendar to take the time to do it, so it wasn't until last week I realized I said, "Oh, we're meeting next week. I need to get started on this." So. I know that I just need to already have a set time, like once a month, that this is the time that I'm gonna put on my calendar to make sure I go through it.
So smart. I love that once a month. Once you're working, like some months might take more than others if it's like height of spring market, right? But once you've got that rhythm, it won't take that long. The spreadsheet will work itself out and um for a while, and it's back on my calendar now, but one of the best things I did was kind of like Friday mornings, like kind of find that moment during your week that was a little quieter for you, and I would just book an hour, and it would be I just put books, like meaning finance books, like and I would just quickly work on this sheet or my QuickBooks at that time, net worth tracker. Do I need to do anything for any like personal bills? I have a friend who hates doing numbers, so she tries to make it fun. So like Monday mornings, she'll go somewhere for coffee and do it at a coffee shop. So do anything you can to kind of make it its own little event can be helpful. Teresa, I'm seeing your email and I'm getting you the spreadsheet. And if you could drop your email in the chat. Yep. Okay. So I just put the link for the spreadsheet if you guys don't have it yet. And if you drop the email in the chat for anyone who's new or hasn't received my emails, please throw it in the chat and I will make sure you're part of our email list. What other observations did you have with really January being the first month that we started doing this stuff? Y'all, I'm a coach, so I can sit here in silence all day. Let's take a quick poll. Throw in the chat if you have the spreadsheet and we're able to get started, even not finished. Give me like a thumbs up emoji or a yes. All right, Carly, yes. All right. if you're here today with no spreadsheet yet, with, okay, Sheila, we've got to get it to you. Okay, this is my first meeting, learning more. Wonderful. Just so I know who's in the room. How about, okay, Teresa, you're new. Mike, you're new. Sheila, you're new. So is Carly the only one who's kind of dug in a little bit? This just helps me understand where to guide our conversation. Deanne, yes, didn't close anything in January. No problem, Deanne. I bet you probably have some expenses. So even if you didn't close anything, we're still going to do the spreadsheet, right? Because we know you at least had your KW invoice and there may have been some expenses. So KW invoice with MLS, there may have been some other, if you're brand new, there may have been some startup costs. Okay. So my first meeting, perfect. Okay, so I'll get all of these emails. Here's what to expect from us moving forward for those of you guys who are brand new. We meet once a month and as we progress, because this is new for a lot of people, we're gonna start reviewing some numbers together. Specifically, we're gonna review GCI, which is gross commission income. You know what? I'm sorry, I'm just gonna hit record. Oh, it's going. Okay, good. Okay, we're gonna hit GCI, gross commission income. Then we're gonna talk about cost of sale. Cost of sale is anything related to a sale, like any cost that only happened when you closed a unit, when you closed a transaction. And then the last thing we'll track is expenses, right? So can someone give me an example, just so we understand everyone's catching on with the difference between cost of sale and an expense? What would be an example of cost of sale?
That be team splits.
Team splits? Absolutely, Mike. Yep.
Transaction, like manager fees. Is admin fees considered that? I think that's the one thing I was confused about. Or is it just
Yeah.
categorized depending on how you pay them?
When you say admin fee, tell me more about what you're referring to.
So like I have an admin that kind of runs my command. She does some transaction management stuff. But I wasn't sure if I should put that under cost of sale or if I should put that under expenses.
Great question. And this is where it can kind of get tricky. If your admin works on a file, does she get paid if that deal falls through? He or she?
No.
Okay. So that kind of fits in the definition of a cost of sale. And yet, what I like to do is think about it from a bigger perspective. As your business grows, you might want to understand how much you've been paying for that transaction coordinator if and when the right time comes to have more of an admin who would get paid maybe hourly or salary. And
Mm-hmm.
so you could also put that under expenses salary. And that might be a good placeholder to have because then it's a line item where it's showing you if you end up pulling someone to work a little bit more part or full time, you kind of have a sense of what you've paid so far. For
Got it. That makes
example, let's say we pay someone per transaction. I'm just going to make up a number. I have no idea. Like, let's say $500. Well, at some point, once your units start climbing, let's say you're closing 15 units a month. At that point, like probably even before that, it makes more sense to hire an admin who can help with more than just transaction coordinator financially than continuing to pay per transaction because your transactions have increased so much.
okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, question. Bailey wrote photographer, and this one comes up a lot as a question as well. So my question is, if that listing doesn't sell, do we still need to pay the photographer? Yeah. So we're actually going to use photography as an expense. So we've got some new people here, and I put the link into the spreadsheet. Would it be okay if you guys, maybe for us to get started, we really just maybe took a step and reviewed the spreadsheet? And what I'll do is I'll show you my numbers because eventually I'd love for everyone to see like be very comfortable in this environment to show each other our numbers, know this is a safe space. And so we'll use it kind of a real life example, if that's all right with you guys. All right. And I'm just seeing if there's anything else in the chat. Normally Scott's here with me too, and he's at an appointment, so you've got me. But we'll get through this together. So like I said, I am a beginner on some of this as well, just the spreadsheet. I've been tracking my numbers through QuickBooks. And I wanted to make sure that I was doing the same things you guys were. Now, just for a quick show of hands, can you guys put into the chat, are you a solo agent, run a team, or lead a team? I'm sorry, solo agent, lead a team, or on a team? Because that's going to help me kind of share the right things too. Okay, Mike, you're on a team. That's like me. I'm also on a team. Teresa, solo. Solo, solo, solo. Okay. Okay, this is perfect. So here we go. When you open this chart, it's going to seem intense, and that's okay, you guys. We're just going to start at the very beginning. So what I want to start with is the budget model. So when we call this class the budget model class, it's going to be based on one of the 4 models in the MREA. Everyone's got the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. If not, it's a great book to order. I ordered the 3-ring binder one. It's a little bit easier to read and refer to. It's tabbed. But the budget model is straight out of this book. Now it has been updated, so you've got this updated chart right here in your spreadsheet. When you go down at the bottom, you've got all of these tabs. So the budget model breaks down different kind of benchmarks for different GCIs. So everyone throw into the chat or come off mute, whatever's easier. What's your goal for this year in terms of a gross commission income? So gross commission income would be before any cost of sale. So before you pay any team splits, any KW, cap, or royalty, and before expenses. So that's going to be what, when the title company writes a check to KW, that's the gross commission income. So then we've got the cost of sale. GCI minus cost of sale is gross profit. And then after expenses, that's what you have net income, or another word for that is net profit. Okay, so this is all right in your chart. So the other tab we're going to quick peek at. So that's where we're going to start. And let's see what people have put into the chat. When I share my screen, I can't see the chat. All right, so who's got a goal this year for GCI? 200, Carly, great. 243, Mike, awesome. So let's use Carly and Mike, right? From a GCI perspective, remember, this is a model. It's best practice, but it's not necessarily going to fit for everyone. So if you look all the way to the right, we've got best practices. The Millionaire Real Estate Agent talks about how do we gross $1 million and how do we net $1 million. And that's what these net $1 million is right here. And gross is right here. Julia, I see 150, perfect. So for Julia, she's going to follow this column right here, which on average says if you're grossing 150K in income a year, about 13% of that will go to your cost of sale. So to your splits, your caps, other cost of sale expenses. Another great cost of sale is referral fees, right? You wouldn't, if I referred you a piece of business, you're not going to pay me a referral fee until that closes. So referral fees are also cost of sale. Deanne, 150. So Deanne and Julia are going to follow this column. So this is going to help guide them on what their percentage goals should be. Now remember, it's a model, so it doesn't mean you have to be on track, but this helps us decide what conversations to have when we're coaching you through this. Now, for those of you who are somewhere in between 150 and 340, you might somehow choose like a number between it, or you might go to the next closest one. There's no right or wrong for this. But so we're going to take this info. So like if I were Julia or Deanne, I'm going to go back over to my MREA budget model actual. That's the first tab in this spreadsheet. And I'm going to put in my cost of sale goal, which was that 13%. remember? Oh, and we're only going to type into the yellow cells, guys. It says it right here. Everything else fits. So you're going to add your goal. So Mike, this would say 243, Carly 200, Julia 150. And then every month we track, we're going to put in the number. So right now we're only doing January numbers. So that's why I've got a 1. Come February, I'm going to put it to 2. March 3, etc. So when you guys start these, I want to make sure you've got your goal in. Once you've put your January numbers in, then we're going to put 1 up here. And I want you to put your goal, cost of sale, and expenses. And that's going to come right from budget model reference. Okay. So Julia and I can't remember who else was it. Deanne is going to put 13 and 38. Mike, Carly, you might put somewhere closer to 26 and 36. So if you've just clicked on the link in this spreadsheet, the first thing you want to do is make a copy. It won't allow you to edit it without it. And then save it as your own. All right. Is everyone
Hey,
with
Steph, I have a
me
quick
so far?
question.
Yeah.
Do I recall correctly if there are different models for solo versus team in regards to breakout percentages?
That's a really good question. So the budget model has really been made for rainmakers and solo agents. I'm right there with you, Mike, because I run a business under a team. And these percentages I'm going to work toward, but they're not going to be correct. We're going to have a higher cost of sale and lower expenses. Yet some of like how it works out might be the same. And even though, or not the same, but it might still kind of run together and make sense as we get into it. But this budget model that I just showed you, and that is really for rainmakers and solo agents. Now, what I would do is still encourage you, like I am, to do this because it will help you understand what your expenses are and it will open up conversations for where could I reinvest money? Am I like could I spend more and end up making more, or do I need to cut expenses and kind of red light, green light? So just know that if you're on a team, these numbers won't exactly flesh out the way it is on that model. And yet there are going to be enough people here on teams that we can still work through this together. And the beauty is Scott runs a team and I'm on a team. So we've got 2 different models that we can share and kind of mastermind around.
Thanks.
Cool. Okay. So right now, everyone in the chat who is new, has everyone been able to open up that spreadsheet and start a new copy? If not, if you're having any trouble, let me know. As you're getting started, the very first thing, like if this is the very first class you've been to, you've not started this spreadsheet yet, I encourage you, the very first thing is to go to watch the video series that is in the spreadsheet. They're all, as you can see, less than 5-minute long videos, and they're super helpful. Just make sure you watch each of these. This is Scott walking you through each step on how to do this. So definitely use this as a resource. As I was doing mine, I was reading this just to make sure I was doing the chart right. So first then, let's just see. I know Deanne, you came in a little late, I think, and Julia. If you guys could let me know if you've done your numbers yet, or and it's okay regardless, or if you're still working through the spreadsheet or haven't started yet. I just want to make sure what I'm talking about speaks to everyone in the room. So when we start here, okay, haven't started. Okay, no worries. Julia, just let me know. So let's say that you guys want to start. I've started but haven't finished January. Okay, perfect. So how about we just decide, okay, we're going to just start with January numbers and I'm going to walk you through how I got started in order to get this rolling for you guys. And I'm just going to log into Command really quick so that I can show you. Okay. All right, so let's say you're about to sit down or you're just finishing up, and we are going to start step by step for your month of January. The first thing I did was I did go into the chart of accounts, which is right one of the tabs, and there's a video on this. And I looked to see, is there any other income expenses that I need to add or customize to this? So for example, if you have a team, we might need to add some cost of sales if you're paying team members. So I needed to do that, right? If you look here, showing partner splits, I added that because I have a showing partner. And so if you do, like, right, we would need to basically add a bucket here to be able to assign to an expense or cost of sale. Same thing if you go down to expenses, you can start to customize these. For example, like I said, this spreadsheet is kind of very big for you to grow into. So for example, if you had operations people, you could customize these to their name. If you had salespeople, ISAs, all of that. When you go down here, you'll see there's listing costs for photos, yard signs. There's tons of different buckets to separate. But one thing you might want to do is categorize these lead gen levers. So, for example, if one of your lead gen levers is events, maybe you've got an event category. If one of your lead gen levers is farm, we would then create a farm bucket. We would just edit one of these to say farm. That allows us to get very specific and to see what we're spending and what the return on our investment is. Okay, so that's where some of the personalization of this spreadsheet can really come in handy. I do a lot of downtown stuff, so I added parking because that wasn't on here, but I often have to pay like meters and stuff when I'm doing showings. So just start to think about what there would be. If you notice on expenses, there's no miscellaneous, there's no other. We really want to make sure that we're not just somehow getting lazy and dumping things into other. We want a very specific place for each expense. And then when we go down to below the line, that's going to be, if we look back at the budget model, we have expenses that are all broken down here. There are 9 categories. You'll see compensation is split up into a handful of categories, as is lead gen, and then there are 7 more. What we have to talk about is there are some what we call below the line expenses that don't fit into those 9 categories. Can you guys think of what might qualify for as a below the line expense? It can be like a little confusing for some people, but if I go back to the chart of accounts, one thing is an owner's salary. Now I'm going to show you how I handle this. But another thing could be if you paid federal or state tax income, or if you made donations, like if you donate to KW Cares, if you donated to United Way last year, any type of organization, we can add those, or you can just kind of lump them into one donation category. And those would come, that would be factored in there. These are expenses that are additional, but not necessary to run the business. And Julia got the donations. Great job. So here's all of your expenses. They're all separated out into each category. So when we look at the categories for income, cost of sale, expenses, do you guys have any questions on how those are broken up or why? No? Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to walk you through how I did this. So I truly, once my chart was categorized, and here are all, like, this version here is just kind of running and breaking you down like month by month what each line item you've paid. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus today on 2025 GCI, 2025 cost of sales, 2025 expenses and 2025 below the line expenses. That's going to be where you spend most of your time working through this chart, especially as you get started. The other charts are either setup or they're going to be reading and interpreting. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my my 2025 gross commission income. And I'm going to decide, okay, I'm going to say, how many closings did I have? And I'm going to start listing them here. And remember, when we do this, we want it to be the gross commission income before you've paid company dollar, royalty, any referral fees, anything like that. Now, Mike, what I did, and I worked through with Scott, I first put the gross, like the actual gross before I paid my team split. And then I had a line item, a row, paying my team the split that I give them. But what Scott and I realized was that's going to really inflate my cost of sale, and it's going to make my expenses seem way less percentage wise. So, Mike, for you and me, since we're not on a team, or since we are on a team, what I want you to do is take your gross before you've paid company dollar, any referral fee, any royalty, or like if you had a showing partner, before you pay any of that, and that's what's going to go here. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, here's the closing date or the day I got paid. And then we need to, and then what I did was I put the gross commission income, and I'm going to show you where to find that in opportunities. And then I put the address and I put the buyer's last name. That was just more for me, put the street, put whatever you want. So then what I did was you use these drop downs. And because it's a gross commission income, we get to decide, was it a residential income? Was it broker admin commission? That's like the $295, the $495, $595, whatever you charge. Was it commercial income? Did I receive an outside referral, meaning I referred someone, a buyer to an agent in Chicago, and they gave me a referral fee, and so that was referral income. Because this was a closing, I'm going to hit, of that I transacted, I'm going to hit residential income. The next is we've got to subcategorize this. And is it a listing income, a buyer, a lease, and then commercial has a subcategory, etc. So this was a buyer, so I'm going to click buyer. What would be what's beneficial about tracking buyer income versus listing income? Who's got an idea?
What was the different stuff? Buyer income versus.
Yeah, listing or seller income. What would be why would there be a benefit to tracking and separating those out?
Yeah, you can really see where your business is driven from.
Yeah. That way, am I really buyer heavy or listing heavy? I coach an agent who has a ton of listings. She works for a builder. And when I see that she doesn't have a big percentage of buyer business, what flag is waved to pique my curiosity is, what opportunities are we missing from potential leads from these listings that could have earned you more buyers, right? If I see that someone's very buyer heavy, I'm wondering, is there maybe a skill set, a mindset, or an activity that we're not focusing on to also bring listings? In an ideal world, we'd love to see people be more 50-50, maybe 60-40, but we'd like to see it being closer together, because that means that we're getting listings and we're getting opportunities from those listings to convert into buyers. Now, if you're on a role on a team, like a buyer's agent, it's okay. It's naturally going to be more buyer heavy. Like, I work with a lot of our partner buyers on our team, so my business is more buyer heavy, and that's okay. It's just, are we aware of those differences?
Hey, Steph, I have a nuanced question here really quick.
Yep.
You mentioned earlier you can add your own fields.
Mm-hmm.
Would you add a line in the chart of accounts? Like just insert a row?
You can. Yeah, what
Okay.
are you thinking you'd want to add out of curiosity?
I want to break out residential buyers and investor buyers, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so you could, and I'm gonna show you because I had to, like I said, I had to add a couple lines. There, is everyone familiar? In case you're not familiar, there are sometimes hidden sheets. You can hide sheets. And in fact, when you watch this video, it says customize your chart of accounts for cost of sales, customize your chart of accounts for GCI. So Mike, that's the one you want to make sure you watch to differentiate between residential, like a residential buyer, like an owner occupied and an investor. So watch these videos, but you can click on these lines here at the very bottom, right next, like right here, if you can see my screen. And there you can see all, like if they're grayed out, they're just hidden. And this chart of accounts reference has been hidden. I had to move it up so that I could edit. So if you want to edit to add certain categories, like differentiating between income, adding an income, adding expense types, follow those videos on how to do that.
Thank you.
At the advice of my accountant, I don't think I would do this, but like I do some coaching. So I have coaching income. So I had to add those categories for a little while until I separate that out. So that's going to be your income. And I'm going to show you where to find your DAs. So you know how I knew what the gross was? I went to the DA, the disbursement authorization in command. So when you have a closing, so if you had a closing in January, what we want to do is go into those opportunities, go to documents, go to closed, and then the DA is right here. So the office adds this in and it shows what people were paid, right? So then you would open it and I'm just going to go to mine. So here's mine. So I had royalty. I paid the company dollar. I paid the market center, right? What it doesn't show is my showing partner. I had to add hers because she was paid separately. But that's where you're going to go when we move on to find your gross commission income. And then when we move on to, we're going to move next to cost of sale. So if you see, I've got 3 cost of sales for that one transaction. We're going to separate them out, each one. So the first one is company dollar. So that's what I paid the 30% of my commission because I wasn't yet capped to KW office, our market center. And I found that just by going to my DA, and you'll see company dollar was $490, $720. So I went back and you'll see 490, I'm sorry, 490, 70, 49, 70, 27. And then I just wrote company dollar. From that same thing, so I wrote, then I'm in cost of sales. So that's a company commission and company dollar. So then I would go down to royalty or company dollar. For royalty, I obviously selected royalty. Then what I did was I added my showing partner because out of my compensation, I share my side of my portion of the deal with a showing partner. So that would be a team commission. So let's say you run a team and you are paying an agent, you would do a team commission to whoever that was. And there might be, let's see all these commissions, or you might just add their name if you have a few people on your team. Okay, so that was my, those gross commission income and cost of sales. Any questions yet on those 2 categories? Okay, so really easy to find in command for any closings that you had. And easy to find if you're tracking your commissions, like on a step, if you're tracking your closings, or you go into opportunities and find your closings there. Okay, next we're gonna go to expenses. This is where it can get tricky. What I encourage you all to do is use like this method, which is apply what you can and highlight what you don't know. Okay. And then go back to those, but just do what you can first, highlight the ones you have questions on. And we're going to go through a couple of these. So, what I first did is I went into my bank account. Now, show of hands or in the chat, put an emoji in or say yes if you keep your business expenses separate from your personal expenses. Thumbs up if you do that. Raise your hand. Yes, working on setting this up. Perfect, Teresa. This is going to make your life 1,000 times easier and prevents you from spending money that you don't really have. Okay. So, like spending your business money on personal or your personal money on business. If there is one action item you did before next call, that would be a very big gift to me. It would be separate these, right? Go start a different account at your bank. It doesn't have to be a special business account. Just start a new checking account and savings account. And then make sure that the monthly invoice that KW has for you and the income, like the account that they're going to put your commissions in, goes into that bank account. That alone will save you a lot of time, because then what you can do is go to January, download all of your transactions from that bank account into a CSV file, and then it's simply copying and pasting. So what I did was I did that very same thing. I got a CSV file, and then from that, I copied and pasted the date. I literally just went right here and I hit Control V, and the dates of all of my transactions went in there. And then in that CSV file, which is basically an Excel file, it's just a different doc, I pasted the amount, and then I pasted the description that my bank account had. Everyone follow with me on how to do that from your bank account. It's not using the PDF statement. There's a way to download a date range of transactions. You certainly could do them one by one, but the copy and paste method is going to be way easier, okay? Now, when you do that, what happens is, I want you to look towards the bottom of my transactions. See how they're all negative? That's how the bank automatically does it. What I learned was that's showing income in this spreadsheet. It's not showing as an expense. Okay. So what I then did after I realized what happened was I took this very same column and I just put it over here by credit. And then I started changing the numbers to positive and not a negative. I didn't get very far because I needed to show you guys. So we're going to go through that, but see how I spent money on Amazon instead of $12.94. This should be $12.94. And then what I did was, just for me to remember I did it, I just deleted it from that credit. Okay, I'm going to show you that one more time. So I actually spent money, right? I paid Amazon for this book for a client gift, but I've just got to make it $12.89 so that it shows up as an expense in this chart. Okay, so let's start going through expenses. Remember, we've got 9 categories that we can work through, and they're all listed here. We've got compensation, so that would be salaries and benefits. This would be if you have someone, like we talked with Carly about maybe putting the TC work there, or if you paid an admin. You know how oftentimes we'll do, hey, I'll give you 25 bucks if you do a showing for me. There's a category for that. We would call that contract labor. Professional services, that could be like your tax accountant, an attorney, an insurance policy for your business. Lead gen, we break into either managing your listings. Earlier, someone said photography. That is where listing photography would go. Signs, who can think of some expenses related to listing management?
Signs, postcards, printing off printing off like the condition report, any of those types of things.
Yep.
Getting booties, all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just listed postcards, your signs, your riders, your staging could be under there, photography. How about general prospecting and marketing? What would be some examples of expenses you'd have for your general prospecting marketing of your business?
Any ads?
Advertisement, like if you boost Facebook ads, just to, unrelated to your listings. What else?
What if you entertain your clients and, when you're talking to them about listing their property or whatever, you buy them a cup of coffee?
Yep. So like meals and entertainment for clients.
What about some of the apps you use for, or I can't think of the term, but like, what are they called when you use them for making phone calls?
Oh yeah, like a dialer.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure. A dialer would be here. If you use like Canva Premium, that could go here. So these are all great ones, and I'll share it with some examples. Occupancy would be like, do you have a desk fee, right? Do you rent a desk at the office? Education and coaching, going to family reunion, working with a coach. Let's say the market center offers a class for like bold, right? $800 or whatever it is. That would go under there. Supplies and office expenses. This is like I'm ordering paper, ink. I would put your copies here because it's going to be hard to differentiate. Like I did 50 copies for this listing and 50 for this. Like just put them all here. Your cell phone, car is where people get confused. Your car should not be your car payment unless that is run through by your business and the business pays for the car. Talk to your accountant about that. Okay, then, so here's all the categories for expenses. Any questions about the categories before we start working in the expense tab? Okay, so we're going to run through the expenses. What I want to show you is everyone here is going to have a KW invoice, right? What makes up your KW monthly invoice? Let's kind of remember what that is. So that one's right here. See how it said Juniper events? I'm going to change that to monthly KW invoice. So what are the components that add up to $187? We're going to need this. Does anyone remember offhand? Otherwise, I did print it out. Okay, a lot of you are new, I know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you. So every month you get an invoice, right? Here she is. It's $187, which is good. First, they match, right? Good. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 expenses that are broken down. Now, the bank only charged me one time for 187. But as you can see, these are all things kind of in different categories. Sunshine Fund, charitable, it's kind of charitable. Annual KW fee, that's that profit share fee. KW Milwaukee compliance, agent technology fee, and E&O insurance. So we've got tech, we've got dues from MLS, we've got insurance. So I'm going to show you how we break this up, okay? And you guys will help me remember. So let's start with insurance, $45. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here. Let's first add it up. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So here's what I'm going to start with. Here's my 187. Can you guys see this? Does it need to be bigger? Bigger? Okay. So I'm going to just add, and to add, you just kind of 2 clicks on the Mac, or you just right click. I'm going to hit add a row, and I'm just going to keep, looks like I added it above, but that's okay. We'll make that work. Okay. So here's my original charge for my monthly invoice. And we're going to start with the $45 E&O insurance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say $45 E&O insurance. Then I'm going to find the category. And that was, by the way, it was 123. So I'm just going to mark 123, 2025. So I'm gonna find the category. So we know it's an expense because we're in the expense category. And we're gonna go down to professional services and insurance, click that. Now we're gonna categorize it a subcategory. So I'm gonna click that and see how this says 6-9,000. So any subcategory would start with 6-9. And yet it starts me all the way at the top for some of the other incomes and expenses. So I'm just gonna scroll all the way down until I find 6-9. And those are my subcategories. So if you can see, it says auto insurance, E&O, property or liability, workers' comp, key man. So this is E&O. So that's my first one. We're gonna move back. MLS fees, which are $39. MLS fee, 123. And then we're gonna go down to, I think that's under I think it's under education and coaching from memory. Let's see. No, that wouldn't make sense. 6400.
Dues and realtors, 64600.
Perfect. 64600. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna mark these. Okay, so then the next one. Oops, wrong thing. Wrong thing. Oh my Lord. Sorry. One sec.
While you're searching, I
I
saw
oh, go ahead.
and this is just a side note, side question. We can write off our auto insurance.
So this is where, again, you want to talk to an accountant. It may be a
Okay,
category, but really only if your business has the insurance policy in the car in its name.
got it.
So, for example, mine doesn't. I pay my, my car payment, my insurance is under Stephanie, not my business name.
Understood.
So that's a personal expense.
Got it.
Okay, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna quickly, Sunshine Fund annual KW fee, we're just gonna put them all here and then that was 25. KW compliance is 15. We need one more line. And the last one was agent tech. And that was 60. So can't remember who it was in the chat, but they were like, well, I didn't have any income, but I bet you at least had these expenses, right? So you could go into your expense column and do the same thing that we just did. So let's assign these. Let's start with agent tech fee. That's going to be a little bit more obvious. Communications and tech. And then we'll subcategorize it and we'll look for 660. So here are my options. Wireless phone, tech fee, office phone. So I'm going to choose tech fee. Then let's go to KW compliance. This is probably, let's see if it's under education and coaching. It's also like education and coaching is also dues sometimes, like we saw. So I just want to see. Agent compliance. Dues. Let's see, maybe it could be under tech still. This is where Scott would know since he's so used to this. KW compliance. We're gonna come back to that one. So I'm just gonna keep that one highlighted for now. I'm gonna unhighlight the ones that we know. Annual KW fee. We'll come back to that one too, but we'll play around. What I would do next, like if I wasn't pressed for time, is I'd just go through the chart of accounts and I'd look to see where it is. So then what we want to do is, let's just assume we've categorized them. What I want to make sure is when these add up, that they all add up to 187. And I don't know if you can see this, but when you highlight and select a group of numbers, down in the bottom right here, it kind of auto calculates it for us. So we know that what I entered in, those line items all add up to 187. So what I get to do then is I get to delete this one, which is the 187, because now we've got all the categories. So I'm just gonna, again, right click, delete, and remove that one out. If you copied and pasted your bank transactions, you'll also see that you had, see right here, salary, regular income from Juniper, 14,837. And I ran this math. That was what my gross commission minus my cost of sale equaled what was deposited into my account. Because that's not an expense, that's income that we already put into the income categories, I'm also gonna delete that one because it's not an expense. So, but I tend to do that after I've already allocated it somewhere else, so we don't forget about it. Okay. Now, any questions about expenses and finding where they go yet? We've got a few minutes left. We did kind of a deep dive real fast on gross commission income, cost of sale, and expenses. What questions do you have around those three categories and the chart?
This is actually the most I've understood it.
Good. Good. That's why you're here. Perfect.
I have a question. So I'm in like week 2.
Yep.
So I'm kind of getting all the information. This is great. How do you know what things you can expense and making sure you understand everything that you should be documenting right from the get-go so that I don't want to get behind. I'd like to try to kind of be proactive.
Yeah. Some of that, I think, like if I were new, I'd really take a peek at the chart of accounts and just go into both that budget model tab and really this account. The chart of account, this is where it breaks it into commission, income, cost of sale, and then I would go and just start understanding what categories are here, right? So that I know exactly what other agents or what the model has agents spending money on. Now, just because there's a category, kind of like that great question about insurance for cars, doesn't mean that you absolutely can write it off. And that's where, because like these expenses are often based on a big business and we're all working our way up to that. So I would start with understanding the chart of accounts, just read through it and you'll start to pick up on some things. And ultimately, you'll really want an accountant to know what you can write off because there are limits. There are limits for the amount that you can write off for closing gifts unless it's branded. There's all these different nuances. So, but here's where just at least categorizing things and adding a description will help because at the end of the year, when you go to have your taxes done, you can share this document with the accountant. They'll see everything. Maybe they highlight and ask you questions. So it's like, this is a good starting point. And then ask an accountant, ask a professional. Sometimes the office brings in people. That would be a great resource to talk to for different presentations.
Thanks.
Yeah, there is also, we don't, this is a temporary category, but like when you're filling your January and February out before we meet in March, right here at the very bottom is under professional services, it's questions. So I used the highlight method, right? But what you could do is dump everything you have a question about into this category and then come here, because if it's just like hey, where do you put this question? We can answer it and you can move it out of there. Or it's a great thing that you could email your accountant about or CPA. Just know we don't want things to live there. It's like a landing, like a holding zone. So, based on where you came in today at 1 o'clock to where you're at now, what's changed with your outlook or confidence level about tracking these numbers?
I will say I think I'm completely done updating. So I kind of just, as you went along, started to put my things in. So I feel good about that because it's
Nice.
taking me a while. And I, like Leah said, I think this is probably the most I've understood it. So thanks for taking the time to do that with us.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we'll do is if everyone can work to get something in for our next call, second Thursday of March, then we'll work together, right? It's just kind of learning this tool, and the more you can do it incrementally, the easier it will be for you because like I said, if you were to start this in September, it's going to be tougher to get 9 months in. So any baby steps you can do, and Carly, you had a great like observation right at the beginning. Set time aside for this so that you can kind of incrementally do this. Then what we'll start to do is, okay, and again, mine's not done, but then what we can do is like if you were to stay and listen to the advanced call that happens next, we spend most of our time here, right? So here's your goal. So to do that, you need about 20K. This is for a $250,000 goal. Any cell that's green means it's on pace for the goal. Any cell that's red means it's above, like it's not right, right? It's you've crossed the threshold. So for instance, technically for that goal, my cost of sales should be around 26. Well, it's 43. But I wasn't capped. So eventually that as the months go on and I am capped, that percentage is going to go down. So some of these reds, don't panic. It might be short-term red. And some of these greens might be short-term greens, but eventually when you've got your month, some months will be green, some months will be red. And then what we can do is start having coaching conversations around these numbers. So, how about let's end with like 2 takeaways or 2 things that people are going to do before next call.
Well, I'm definitely gonna finish filling my stuff in because I halfway through. And then I'm gonna figure out, I know I joined late, how to clear off January, and I'm already moving on to February.
Nice.
So
Yeah, the nice thing about that's a great ad. The nice thing about when you download your bank transactions, like if you're just starting and January wasn't like a high expense, like number of expenses month, like you can start into February because those transactions are in your bank account. You don't need a bank statement. So you can definitely work ahead through the month. You don't have to wait till the month end. Love that. Thanks, Kathleen. How about one more? Okay, action to watch the videos. They're really great. And then work on getting an accountant, bank account, and credit card. Sheila, finish filling my info in, get caught up before next weekend. This was helpful. It's giving clarity. Yeah, the spreadsheet's like kind of intimidating, and yet it's quite simple once of what it takes from us. So, all right, thank you guys for showing up. Loved where you're at. Remember, this is about progress, not perfection. So just keep moving forward one step at a time. And if I could ask a small favor, bring a friend for next week. There's so much opportunity on this call. We'd love to see more people be impacted by it. So thanks, guys. And we're going to jump into the advance. So if you're just curious about what that means, you can feel free to stick around